So act surprised when I say welcome again. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for coming this afternoon. I'm probably being blown in from across the campus. So we are so thrilled that you have joined us for the 2022 Lance and Elena Calvert Awards for Undergraduate Research. If we haven't met, my name is Maggie Farrell. I am the Dean of University Libraries. So we're so pleased to see you and to be able to present the Calvert Awards and honor the work of our undergraduate students at UNLV. This is our first fully in-person award ceremony since 2019. And so we are happy that you are here, that you are healthy, and that you can join us in honoring our outstanding student researchers in person again. The Calvert Awards honor outstanding students who have demonstrated exceptional use of the library's resources and critical application of information in their research papers and class projects. And we have previous Calvert awardees among us. So one is Christina Miskey, who is an assistant professor in our scholarly communications department. And yes, Christina, we're so proud of you and honored that you work in the libraries. And another temporary library employee is Natalie Martinez. And Natalie is off to graduate school at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So Natalie, we're going to send you this summer with all of our best, and you demonstrated excellent research at the undergraduate level. We know that you'll be just as successful as a graduate student. So congratulations to both Natalie and Christina. These awards are made possible through the generosity of Lance and Elena Calvert. Lance and Elena recognize the important impact of undergraduate research and the valuable role that libraries play in supporting all forms of research and scholarship. Elena and Lance established an endowment to fund these awards, so this is an ongoing program that we are so honored to host in the libraries. These awards continue to be a highlight for the libraries, and as you meet the awardees this afternoon, you will see how their talent and skills just contribute to the ongoing research that's conducted here at UNLV. Before we get started with the awards, I'd like to recognize two additional individuals. The Library's Advisory Board is a group dedicated to supporting our mission through fundraising, and we are fortunate to have one of our advisory board members with us, Betty Lacombe, who is representing our board this evening. So Betty, thank you. And Lance Calvert used to be a member of our library's advisory board, so the role of our fundraisers and our fundraisers is so critical to the work that we do. Thank you, Betty, and to all of our past and current members of our library's advisory board. We also have another individual that I'd like to recognize. We have great community individuals who contribute to a number of our initiatives. One initiative is our Latinx Voices Oral History Project, and Leslie Mojaca is here today. She represents the Latinx Voices Oral History Project. So thank you, Leslie, for joining us. Now, for the announcement of the Lance and Elena Calvert Awards for Undergraduate Research, I will turn it over to Assistant Professor and Librarian Amber Sewell. Amber? Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Hello, my name is Amber Sewell. I'm a teaching and learning librarian here with UNLV Libraries. This year it was my pleasure to coordinate the Lance and Elena Calvert Award for Undergraduate Research. Our judging panel this year consisted of 15 individuals representing a number of different disciplines and areas of expertise across campus. This award would not have been possible without their thoughtful effort, time, and dedication to student work here at UNLV. While I will not name all 15 of them here, they are listed in the program, and I truly appreciate their hard work during one of the busiest times of the semester. We received some superb student projects this year from a wide variety of disciplines, and the judges offered an abundance of considerate feedback and enthusiastic discussion of their merits. After hearing from today's winners, I'm sure you'll understand why the judges were so impressed. Thank you to our judges. Your service is greatly appreciated. This work could also have not been done without the assistance and insight from both Rizan Matola and Carrie-Ann Cahal. Their guidance was invaluable as I navigated coordinating this award for the first time. There are many, many elements that go into making this all possible, and their attention to detail, thoughtful consideration, and dedication to supporting and highlighting UNLV's student work contributed substantially to its success, so thank you both. I would also like to echo Maggie's thanks to Lance and Elena Calvert. Coordinating this award and witnessing all of the excellent student work under consideration was a highlight of my year, and I appreciate your generosity in making this possible. Not only is this a wonderful way to honor undergraduate students here at UNLV who are doing exceptional work, this award is a meaningful way to present that work created under the thoughtful guidance of their faculty advisors to the faculty, staff, and community of UNLV. It is an uplifting reminder of the potential of our students and an inspiring way to bring the semester to a close. So thank you again for making it possible. And now I have the great honor of introducing you to this year's winners. Casey Bourne is this year's winner in the Creative Works category. Her project was a children's book entitled Discoveries in the Sand. Her faculty advisor, Dr. Nicewinder, detailed the hard work that went into Casey's project as she was able to simultaneously present complex scientific theories and entertaining childhood anecdotes to create a fun and educational story that children of all backgrounds can enjoy, while also allowing her book to be a mirror for young minority children. Judges were impressed by Casey's explanation of how her research into biodiversity, conservation, psychology, and much more influenced this book. Equally impactful for the judges was the design of the book, the thought-provoking way Casey translated scientific concepts into an accessible format, and the importance of having a Black family as the protagonist of the story. I'd like to invite Casey up to speak more about her project.
Hi, as she said, I'm Casey Bourne, and I'm just super grateful to have gotten this award. It's been just really difficult doing this entire project. A lot of hard work went into it, and I had already decided that I was going to write a picture book before I even realized the significance of what it would be. And once I actually started to step into the research and kind of just figure out what I would be using to back up my picture book and just give that rationale, I realized that this book was really needed. So to begin, there are not very many picture books about the Mojave Desert. When I was researching to try to find picture books that I could kind of look to for inspiration, I barely found any. So that was one of the reasons why I realized that this was going to be a significant addition to this work. And then as she was saying, I also noticed that there's not a lot of representation for Black children or other children of color within picture books. There are more picture books about animals and trucks than there are about people within that minority group. And in addition to that, there just isn't that much talk about the Mojave Desert in general. I just feel like we live here, and it's such a cool place. There are so many different animals and all these different plants, and we don't really hear much about what's going on over here. And I just wanted children to be able to be introduced to the topic of the Mojave Desert and learn more about it. So being a biology major, we talk a lot about the state of our environment and how we need to do more things to make it better. And sometimes I would sit in class feeling overwhelmed as I heard about some of the different issues that are plaguing our world. And I would just think, what is something that I can do to actually make our environment better? And I found that there's no surefire way to fix our environment, but no matter which approach we choose, the first step is education. So people need to know, we cannot expect people to take care of this environment if they don't know why we need to take care of this environment. Like, what's so important about this area that we need to protect it? My hope with this book is that it will spark children's interest in the Mojave Desert and that as they grow up, they will learn to care about this environment and other environments as well. It's important that we learn about this land so that we can better take care of it and ensure its beauty remains intact for future generations. The prosperity of our future depends on the children of today. And I couldn't have done this project without my thesis committee, Dr. Sean Neiswinter, who is sitting here, as well as Dr. Lisa Menegaudos and Professor Ashley Dowdy. And they really helped me to just narrow down my ideas and figure out what would work best for this project. I'm also super grateful to Lance and Elena Calvert for sponsoring this award. My plan is to use this scholarship to fund my publication process for the book, because I finished it within this past semester, and so now I'm just going to be tweaking some little things here and there so that I can actually publish it and have it in schools and libraries, all sorts of places. And then during my first semester working on this project, I used the UNLV library database almost every single day. As was mentioned earlier, I looked at so many different disciplines for this project within psychology, ecology, biology, children learning and development. I read so many different papers. I think my bibliography was like 3 or 4 pages long. So I read a lot for all of this. And I'm just super grateful that UNLV has all these connections that made it possible for me to read all these articles without having to pay for them, because that would have been super expensive. I'm also very grateful to Amanda Malili from the Teacher Development and Resources Library. I went to her when I was first starting out, and she helped to guide me with what I should kind of do for my picture book, what was already out there, what people are looking for. And she was actually the one who mentioned that I should definitely look into making my picture book feature a Black family, because she noticed that there was a lack within that area as well. So I'm just super grateful for her giving me that advice. And winning this award it means so much to me. I'm super grateful for it. It shows me that all of my hard work this past year was not in vain, that I wasn't super tired, I wasn't canceling plans for no reason. And I just am super grateful to be able to see this dream come to fruition, because I had never set out to write a picture book. I've actually never drawn like this before, and I've never written a book before. So it was a huge learning experience, but I'm just very happy to be here and to be able to share all of this with everyone. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that insight into your work, Casey. All right, so Andrew Kemp is this year's winner for the Emerging Scholars category. His project is the Theoretical Challenges in Ukraine. Dr. Phelps, his faculty advisor, was effusive in her praise of Andrew's work as a sophomore in a higher level course. She explained that this project demonstrates Andrew's important skills in being able to synthesize both academic information with breaking news by combining peer-reviewed research and credible news sources. Dr. Phelps also complimented Andrew's use of the library and its resources, which she argued that he used at an incredibly advanced level. Judges were impressed by the extremely complex topic, commenting that it was an ambitious undertaking for an emerging scholar. I'd like to invite Andrew up to share some remarks about this project.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come here and make my remarks. To be 100% honest, I did not expect to stand here today. Comparing myself to all the other previous applicants and quite amazing applicants that have been within this field, I honestly felt like a nobody, I guess I have like this negative tendency of always fearing whether or not I'm going to serve as an inconvenience to somebody. And that's kind of the mindset that I had throughout my freshman year here at UNLV. I guess, when it came to my previous research, I was worried about, maybe my questions might come off as silly or just I might be wasting somebody's time. So I said, rather than just annoying somebody, I'm going to try to just do all this stuff on my own. And I kept this established attitude up until very recently. As a sophomore, I was assigned a policy briefing on a pretty interesting topic, that being the unfolding situation in Ukraine. And, I knew that this topic was worth putting an emphasis on because, it's ongoing, right? Even at this very moment, as I, give you my remarks, the situation in Eastern Europe is only persisting. So right from the start, I knew that this research process could potentially be strenuous. Well, since, like I said, since it's an ongoing conflict, there would be this 24/7 content cycle, that being the interweb that's constantly updating itself. So, although I would have this mass of sources, the question was, how could I appropriately provide an accurate and reliable suggestion about what we should do about this war? And, I also wanted to take a different approach by presenting a fair argument on a side that I might totally disagree with. So basically, I told myself, I'm going to think like somebody I don't like. And, if I was going to be as fair as possible with these separate viewpoints, I knew that I couldn't do this on my own. I said, this isn't something that I can try to just push aside and do solo. I knew I needed to reach out to a more reliable figure or figures from the institution. And it all started with my faculty sponsor, also the professor who assigned me this brief, Dr. Martha Elizabeth Phelps. I think Dr. Phelps kind of caught on to my nervous and anxiety-like attitude towards reaching out for help. She was like, I'm dragging you out of this fear. We're going to get you started on this, and you'll do great. And, she basically convinced me to set up one of my very first appointments with a research consultant from the library. And I'm not going to lie, I was breaking a sweat because, like I said, I was nervous. What if, I might be wasting their time? What if I get hit with, oh, you didn't know this? Or, that's such an easy topic. How do you not know about this? So I told myself, if I end up basically serving as an inconvenience to anybody, I was going to stop myself from, ever reaching out for help again. But that's not what happened. I had an appointment with UNLV scholarly communications librarian, Christina Miskey, and she had helped me find a multitude of ways to add more impact into my piece. So rather than just tying it into, a conflict between two states, Russia and Ukraine, she helped me realize that this could be tied into NATO and that, perhaps it can be the consensus formed between over 30 countries to propose one viable solution. And adding on to this, I had also come across the UNLV URST 101 library guide created by librarian Susie Scarl. And this led me to not 5, not 10, but over 50 different sources to use from. And I believe the most pivotal moment for me within my research process was basically discovering that, when it comes to this unfolding situation in Ukraine, those in international relations theory who align themselves as a realist and those who align themselves as a liberal might actually completely switch sides on what they should do about the situation. For example, the realist perspective could be summarized as somebody who might say, they'll focus on self-interest. They'll say that, we have to focus on the severity and the safety of our specific state. But when it comes to the situation in Ukraine, on the Russian perspective, they might be the ones to say, hey, it is actually in our own self-interest to actually make ties with NATO. So let's talk and form a consensus so that everyone, including us, could be safe. Whereas, the liberal perspective could be summarized as those that, they like cooperation, they like this dialogue between them and keeping the existence and persistence of perpetual peace. But with the war in Ukraine, they could also be the ones to kind of say, nope, things are getting way too out of hand and they're going by really, really fast, so we need to fix things fast. So, perhaps they could also be the ones to implement or propose a military-based strategy and therefore basically spreading their national interests, otherwise known as illiberal liberalism. So, I just found it extremely fascinating how, when it comes to instances of crisis and we have an abundance of stress put upon our hands, there's a notice between the difference from who we say we are versus who we actually are. But regardless, at the very end of this research process, I would say one of the big takeaways that I can share is, I'm not nervous anymore with the library. And I am going to have to tie this back to my faculty sponsor and, of course, Christina Miskey, for helping me realize that there's nothing to be scared of when it comes to reaching out for help. And, with Dr. Phelps, I could just stand here and say, I'm so proud of how far I've come doing this solo and, I'm proud and excelling doing this by myself, but that wouldn't be the truth. To be quite frank, I started this process because of Dr. Phelps. I reached out for help because of Dr. Phelps. I found out about this beautiful library opportunity because of Dr. Phelps. And most importantly, I'm standing here today as lucky as I am because of Dr. Phelps. I've had this history of basically stressing about everything. And I remember she told me one time, before we started this process, Andrew, don't overthink, underthink. And I can assure that this mindset has helped me basically lift a lot of unnecessary stress off my shoulders. And of course, I'm very grateful for this opportunity for Mr. and Mrs. Calvert and the UNLV Lee Library as well. And, as much as I'm honored to have received this award and stand here today, I don't think my journey is necessarily done. I think, in fact, it might have just started. And I'm excited. I hope that this moment, as a whole could serve as a good awakening for my progress here on out. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Andrew. All right. Alyssa Hinks is one of our winners for the Advanced Undergraduate category. Her project is the Federal Elections Bill and the End of Reconstruction in 1890. Dr. Tannenhouse, her faculty advisor, stated that this project has changed how he thinks about and teaches this chapter of American history. Not only did Alyssa write an impressively researched capstone paper, but Dr. Tannenhouse describes the final draft as one that sings. Judges were impressed with Alyssa's strong use of sources and the demonstrable impact of her original research. One judge said of the project that, quote, "Reading this work, I became not a reviewer, but a student of history." I'd like to invite Alyssa up to share some remarks about her project.
Oh, that's on a slant. Thank you, Amber. All right. To be a citizen of the United States is to be in a constant condition of reckoning with our history. Each generation is presented with an opportunity to galvanize the changes needed to better fulfill the promise of the nation's founding. Few have understood the assignment better than the people who engaged in the attempt to fulfill the promises offered by Reconstruction, traditionally framed as the years between 1865 and 1877. This period of U.S. history remains our most radical and progressive. The efforts of generations of abolitionists and activists were primed to be realized. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which were all passed by 1870, are the manifestation of the most audacious dreams of the progressive Republican movement. These affirmations of citizenship and personhood have become the shorthand for all civil rights movements which would follow. This period of hope and change was, unfortunately, like many periods of progressivism in U.S. history, felled by a counterattack by opposing forces. The reascending leadership from within the defeated Confederacy united to take from newly freed enslaved persons the most basic tenets of recently realized security and citizenry. Under most frequent attack was the ability for African American men to cast a vote. Throughout the South, dubious laws and statutes, as well as outright domestic terrorism, were employed by white supremacists to drive their black neighbors from the polls. In a last attempt to preserve their work, the remaining radical Republicans in Congress banded together to resecure the sanctity of the ballot box. The Federal Elections Bill of 1890 was one final push to offer protection to African American voters by way of federal oversight. Unlike their previous efforts, however, this bill was not undercut by the opposition party, though they did suffer the bill 2 very intense filibusters. Rather, it was taken down by 5 members of their own party. With the defeat of this bill went the last of Reconstruction-era boldness and reform energy. There was no mention of black enfranchisement within the Republican platform after it, and there would be no meaningful federal effort to secure these rights again until 1965. This episode in our history echoes very loudly today. There are multiple threads of current public discourse which are pulled when recounting it, but the main through line of voting access lays plain that who gets to vote is understood to be an expression of power and reveals a deeply held belief in how the United States is supposed to function. The efforts of the actors in this episode of our history are not far removed from those at work today. These parallels to our contemporary threats to voting rights and access are what initially drew me to the topic. However, as I dove more deeply into it, I found a world of Reconstruction scholarship which was energetic and enthusiastic and among the most willing to investigate the character of the U.S. at both its best and its worst. I cannot tell you how invigorating it was to insert myself into the promise of this period. As someone whose first exposure to any of this was by way of Ken Burns' Civil War, which was recorded off of PBS onto a blank VHS, and then I had to stress out about scotch taping the little thing on the VHS tape, by the way. So I am reliving that trauma daily. And then endured the Civil War craze of the 90s, which focused on battles and aggrandizing elite generals with sort of gestures toward the rewritten social contract which resulted. This was a long-awaited dose of humanity. As I learned more about these personalities and policies, the ending of Reconstruction in 1877 felt more and more wrong. It's wrong. It was drawn from the idea that one military action, in this case, withdrawal of troops from the former Confederacy, just sort of wraps up an intricate social reworking that the country was undergoing. There were clear drivers of the progress of this time, and it felt appropriate to allow them to decide when it ended. My paper argues that it was when these drivers abandoned their Reconstruction principles and allowed the defeat of this bill that the era truly ended. There are episodes in history which are easy to benchmark. In US history, we can find dates to clarify periods in some cases. Prohibition lasted from January 17th, 1920 to December 5th, 1933. We know this because we have actual laws which went into effect at certain times. There are parenthetical movements which surround it, but prohibition is an example of a very tidy period until someone is up here next year talking about how prohibition definitely didn't end in 1933 and their paper proves it. It is human nature to want an ending to allow us to digest and define a moment. We needed 1877 to be the rule because we needed to move on in our history books to robber barons and economic tumult without having to talk about the Civil War or slavery any longer. The definition of the era must shift. My paper is just one of recent additions to the conversation to offer up an extension. 1876, 1887, and still going on are all up for discussion just among my sources. I believe the most significant thing that I have contributed with this paper is additional affirmation that the definition of history and who gets to decide the narrative must be constantly reviewed to have a true understanding of who we are and how we are supposed to move forward. I am obviously a non-traditional student, and I say obviously because I have accepted the reality that there is no skincare regimen, which will again make me look like I am in my early 20s. I started at UNLV in 2001. It took me 20 years and a marathon of experiences to earn this degree. It made me appreciate it more than I think I could have if it had come as it was supposed to. I am so grateful to the teachers who may not understand that the work they do always goes beyond the classroom when they are trapped in the grind of it. Dr. Tannehaus especially, for providing me the space and insight to fully realize what I had to say. I live daily in a corporate hospitality engine, which I care very much about, but I have not felt more fully myself than I did writing this paper, and I owe him a great deal for that. Priscilla Finley's assistance in navigating the databases of primary sources was a literal key to unlocking the door for me in this paper. And Lance and Elena Calvert's support to the scholarship, which is being performed every day on this campus, is a gift to all of us. I am also incredibly grateful to my spouse, who gave me the privilege of working 50 plus hours and going to school full time while also managing his own demanding job and listening to me rhapsodize about W.B. Du Bois and rant about any myriad of upsetting primary sources I might have read that day. Nobody can produce without support, and I am astonishingly fortunate to have been guided to the finish line by these individuals and many others. I am so humbled to be recognized and included in this group of incredibly exciting scholars here today. Thank you all for all of this, and thank you for allowing me this time today. Oh, thank you. No.
Thank you for that. All right. Shivi Sinha is another winner of this year's Advanced Undergraduate category. Her project is titled Factors Associated with Telemedicine Usage and Acceptance Pre and Since COVID-19. Her faculty advisor, Dr. Thompson Robinson, stated that the results of her research will be insightful not only through the duration of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also as future natural disasters occur that are disruptive to the provision of in-person healthcare. Judges were impressed by the timeliness of her research, as well as the strong use of sources to support her exploration of a gap in the literature about this topic. One judge stated that they found the project so interesting and relevant that they're interested in having Shivi present this work to their class. I'd like to invite Shivi up to share more about her project.
Okay, first, hello everyone. I'd like to thank you all for being here today. I didn't expect this many people, so if I'm nervous, please forgive me. I'd especially like to thank Lance and Elena Calvert for making this award possible and for acknowledging our research at this university, which at many times can feel like a huge fishbowl. On that note, I have to personally thank Dr. Thompson Robinson for being instrumental in my success with this research thesis. I cannot thank Dr. TR enough, not only for being my academic pillar of support, but for believing in me throughout this process, even at moments when I really did not believe in myself. She received countless panic texts and panic emails, probably 5 at once, honestly, and deserves immense recognition for that, especially because I'm actually the second student that she's sponsored that's received the Calvert Award, just going to show how great of a mentor and faculty research advisor she is. I'd also like to thank my mom, who cannot be here with us today, but she heard plenty of Qualtrics-related rants. Believe me, plenty. I have to thank my dogs, Curry and Dakota, who I know Casey knows me. Casey, I'm always talking about my dogs. So even though they couldn't be here today, they gave me their fur to come here with. My Aunt Cheryl over there for giving me positive vibes always, even at times where I was extremely distraught. My boyfriend Iram for also giving me positive vibes and food when I was hungry during the research process. And I have to thank the Honors College for even making the research thesis program possible. So I have to especially thank Dr. Lisa Menengatos for running that, Dr. Timothy Grigsby for teaching me statistics, honestly, during this process, and Professor Michael Chin for revising my work a lot. And lastly, I'd like to thank everyone who actually took my survey, shared it, did anything such as a simple Instagram story reshare or a retweet. It meant the world to see my friends and family support me when I needed them. And without those responses, I would not be here today because I wouldn't have any data to analyze. So my interest in this topic flourished when I was actually shadowing a physician 2 weeks prior to COVID-19 hitting UNLV, and we were all happy for our extended spring break, which turned into much longer than that. A patient drove 1 hour from Pahrump for a 5-minute consultation and had to do so while dealing with double amputation related infection wounds. That image stuck with me. I ended up going home that day and I Googled all about what wasn't there? Why did they have to come all the way out to Las Vegas to get that healthcare? And that's when I learned about telemedicine as the answer for rural healthcare. 2 weeks after, COVID-19 swept our world, and suddenly telemedicine was in the news as the solution for COVID-19. After contacting Dr. TR via email with this interest in telemedicine and health equity, we honed in on to looking at the factors related to telemedicine uptake and acceptance pre and since COVID-19. Could not say post-COVID-19 because it's not done yet. This is significant because although plenty of telemedicine research existed in the context of healthcare professionals, not much had existed as it relates to why patients were or were not using telemedicine. So with COVID-19, there were lots of awareness about telemedicine that I think a lot of people had never really heard of before. And so with that and important policy changes that were also going along at that time, shifts were bound to change the way we view this technology that's actually existed since the 1960s. It doesn't seem like telemedicine is going away anytime soon, and I personally hope it's not going away anytime soon. So learning about what makes people actually want to use it was very important, especially with COVID-19 changing many of the ways we've interacted with this world. I still have WebEx and Zoom on my computer. I'd never heard of those programs beforehand. In this research process, health sciences librarian Ms. Zan Goodman opened my eyes to many ways to make this process easier and more organized. Before meeting Ms. Goodman, I probably had 30 totally unrelatedly named PDFs saved in a random computer file on my poor laptop that had to struggle through this process with me. And every time I needed to find a resource, I would just open all 30 PDFs at once and be like, was it in here? Was it in here? From teaching me about RefWorks, using Boolean variables to make more specific and accurate searches, or teaching me about discipline-specific databases like Web of Sciences and PubMed, the daunting process became much more digestible. Let me highlight, not easy, but digestible. And I think all of us who won today can say that. And for that, I also must personally thank Ms. Goodman. Dr. TR provided plenty of materials as well. One that I love called the SPSS Survival Manual, because using SPSS is a survival process. And believe me, that one got plenty of use. And a lot of text regarding the published models that we ended up using. So winning this award means so many things to me. Not only is it reassuring to me as a student researcher, but it also makes all of the challenges that it took completing this thesis worth it. This entire thesis was completed remotely, and I actually never met Dr. TR till about 45 minutes ago. So we had plenty of WebEx calls, plenty of email exchanges, and as I said, a lot of panicked text messages. It gives me confidence to further my research interests in telemedicine within my Master's in Genetic Counseling program by researching telegenetics programs and their implementation considering the major results we had found in this paper. So once again, thank you everyone for being here, and also congratulations to all the other great winners.
Thank you all so much for sharing not only your research, but the story behind your projects today. I know it's the highlight of my year, and I think a great way to end the semester. And congratulations again. And now I'd like to turn things over to Roseanne Matola, Head of Educational Initiatives at UNLV Libraries, for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Amber. I'm going to go a little bit off script because every year my personal cup is filled coming to this event, hearing about your research process, some of the things that stopped you along the way, some of the things that encouraged your curiosity. It's just really a very fulfilling evening for, I think, so many of us. So I just wanted to say that. And I know that it's really one of the most important and inspiring moments of the year for the libraries, as it brings us together to really celebrate and honor outstanding undergraduate research within the university. So I do want to take a moment to applaud all of the students who applied for the Calvert Award this year, along with completing their significant research project. In order to just apply for the award, each applicant dedicates substantial time and energy in compiling their application, including writing a reflective essay that talks about the research process. In addition to recognizing all of the students who applied for the Calvert Award, there are several people that I would like to thank who make this program possible. First and foremost, again, we are here today because of the generosity and vision of Lance and Elena Calvert for endowing this award. Without their support, we would not be able to offer these awards and celebrate these exemplary students in these ways. In addition to the Calvert family, I would like to recognize the outstanding teaching faculty, instructors, and graduate assistants who work with students every day to integrate research-based learning into their courses. Students who apply for this award submit a letter of support from a faculty member, which you've heard a little bit about this evening from Amber. And these letters give our judges important context for how the student is asking and answering a critical question within the field. The letter of support gives us an idea of the significance of their work, and the faculty's support is vital to this process. In addition to our teaching faculty, I also would like to recognize everyone within the university libraries for their contributions to student learning. Their work really makes this research possible. You've heard all of the different names of librarians across our organization that have been involved in each of these projects. I'd particularly also like to recognize some of my colleagues who are involved with the promotion and application process for this award, some of the behind-the-scenes folks, Hugh Aoki, Carrie-Ann Cahal, Sean Kennedy, Natalie Martinez, and Evelyn Rodriguez. I'm profoundly grateful for the opportunity to work with one of our newest colleagues, Amber Sewell, who is new to coordinating the award, and she did such a fantastic job leading the application and judging process. We are so fortunate to have you here at UNLV. And finally, I extend my gratitude and appreciation to our team of judges. I know Amber has given them a bit of a shout out earlier, but I want to thank them again for their time and expertise in the judging process. This year, like many years, there were very many high-quality applications from departments all over campus, and our judges were very conscientious about the prestige of the award and the quality of the work submitted. And I am so pleased this evening that we are able to gather for tonight's celebration. This year marks our 16th anniversary of the Calvert Award, and in total, this year's awards recipients joined 62 other students who have been recognized for their outstanding research. And as you heard from our winners tonight, these awards are truly meaningful for them. It makes a big difference to their future plans. So tonight we celebrate their accomplishments and look forward to what they embark on next in their academic and professional pursuits. So as I close this evening and our formal remarks, I invite you to mingle and congratulate our winners and continue the conversation. Thank you so much.